Welcome back to Freedom Algo. So today we had what started as a range day, had some bullish bias to it, and then it faked everyone out and turned into a bearish downtrend with way more than two legs down. So this is a pretty wild one here, and let's get into it. So starting off the day, first trade that I saw was right up here. So we had a range, and this is just a failed breakout. This is right before the open, and the reason it's marked right here, even though it broke up right here, is that basically what this did was we had this uptrend, we got a new high and a close outside all at once from this move up. This uptrend had already played out over here, so we were kind of looking like we were going to get a failed breakout of the range if it broke below this bar. On the next bar, it didn't break below. It actually went up, and then it broke below here. So on this big red bar, it's actually like a second entry short. So below this bar, basically, you kind of triggered kind of like a second entry short. It's a little more complicated, and that's why I marked it like that. It's not a perfect setup. And then it comes down. You then get this move here, which is basically like a double bottom, so you can kind of treat it like a higher low. It's reasonable, but it's not perfect. You know, the downtrend had played out. Even the wider one here had played out. You're better off to wait for the higher low, which you get right here. Not the best bar I've ever seen, but it still works as a higher low. Comes up. You then get this move here, which I saw this kind of like a triple test of the range highs with a nice reversal bar. And basically, if you look at this as like a double bottom, this is basically a first entry, and then it's kind of a second entry, really below this bar, but that's kind of a small bar, so I waited for this one to close. Double top, kind of like a triple test, kind of treat it like a lower high when it double tops like that. Decent setup. Then over here, we kind of come up again, and we get a failed breakout of the high here, so it tries to close out here. It wicks up and reverses. Once this bar closes, you could take that as a short. Pretty decent trade. And then over here, we come up to the highs again of the range, and then you get a lower high here, so that's a nice easy one as well. And this one also, I think, is a first entry. It's second entry long that fails. A little more advanced, but really it's just a lower high after a failed breakout. Comes back in, and this is kind of like a larger second entry long. It's clearly two legs, and you bounced kind of in this area before, so it's sort of like a triple test. Bullish bar, probably going to come back up and test it. So reasonable trade there as well. Then we come up, we get a first entry, second entry long, moves up, and we get a failed breakout. So this is just a reversal bar. This is kind of picking a top, but it looks like a failed breakout again to me because we keep on failing near these highs. After this point, you get a first entry, second entry long that fails. So this is a failed second entry long, which is kind of serves as like a second lower high. And that's a nice short to take it down. You have to kind of sit sideways and be patient for a second in this one. And then you get this move here, which this one to me, you could kind of just look at this as another sort of like a lower high, just a failed breakout of the range basically. And so I wanted to just mark that one. It's not a perfect setup, but it's looking to me like we're going to get the failure here. You could also see this as like a double top and kind of see this as like a first entry, second entry. And then this is sort of like a third entry long that fails. So it's just, you know, sort of like almost treat it like a triple test in a way. But it just looked like we were rejecting there and probably going to fail back in and go towards the low side, especially after we were failing and making lower highs. So then finally we come down in this downtrend. There's not really much trades in there until over here. And all this one was a possible place to take a long after we were coming all the way down. But there is a channel here, so you do have to be careful. But I was just seeing this as previous support. We had bounced in this area before, so it was like another triple test. There's just a first entry short, so it's green, but to me, this was clearly, hey, we broke out of the channel. We're probably going to make a new low. And then after that, you get this one. This is just a trap. Let me zoom in here a little bit. Make sure that you can see that properly. Okay. So this one here, you get a first entry, second entry long that basically fails and gives you a higher low. So sorry, it doesn't fail. It just gives you a higher low on a second entry long. But this is also a double bottom, so it's actually a first entry, second entry short that fails. So the higher low is a failed second entry short. So it's just a trap. Decent trade. Then after this, you come down, you make a new low, close outside new low. Then you make another new low with a really bullish reversal bar. So I like that one for a long. It's kind of like a hidden second entry long as well, but really it's just hitting the bottom. This area this was just bouncing off of this area here. Come up, we get a higher low there, so that's a decent one within this channel. It's just a decent little higher low. And then we come up, reverse. Finally, we come over here, so there's not really much in here. We get this plays out, downtrend plays out. And then you kind of get this double bottom, so you could treat that sort of like a higher low again, off of the same area that we've been bouncing on the range. And then from here, you get a first entry, second entry short that fails on the engulfing bar. So you could take that one on an engulfing bar long. It's just a trap. Then we get this other downtrend, and I didn't mark up every trade in here because I was actually not at the computer at the time for some of it, and I was busy, but there's a few trade setups in here. Nothing that's really perfect to me. I don't see much. We did form this downtrend. Let's see how this is playing out. So looks like we're finally maybe going to get an overshoot here. Yeah, I kept trying to correct this downtrend, but it just keeps looking like it's steeper and steeper the whole time. So this is probably... might just be that it might not be an overshoot. It's hard to say for sure. This down channel just kept getting, like, the bottom kept falling out, so I had to keep making it wider, which makes you start thinking that there might be an overshoot somewhere in here because it's just not really fitting very well. But also, if we just remove that and look at this as our down channel, you can see that we're finally breaking out of it now. You could argue that it was more like this, and that we already got a close outside, but that's not super convincing to me. Maybe, and then it pushed to a new low already, so maybe it already played out. But the way I see it, it doesn't look like it. This was really bearish, so I wouldn't be surprised if we then try to come down even a little further. But it could rally from here. It could. I mean, this is now an uptrend that already is basically playing out here, so we'll see. But I'm going to wrap it up here. Pretty awesome day, and I'll see you tomorrow.